Well, we didn't have enough of Warren the other day, so I had to get Warren Redlich back again because we never got to talk about Optimus and all of the competition that is. Oh, we've heard this story before. The
The
competition is
competition is
coming.
coming.
Competition is coming. So anyway, for those of you who don't know Warren Redlich, well, how could anybody not know you at this point, Warren? Warren claims that he was a lawyer for many, many years. I'm so sorry, Warren.
Same. Me
It was,
too.
wasn't it criminal and auto and
I
something?
I help I did help a lot of people.
You did help a
I
lot.
helped I helped several thousand people with everything as small as a traffic ticket to, criminal, significant, serious criminal charges and serious personal injuries. And I feel like I did a good job for a large number of people and made some people's lives better. But um, after a while, it was no longer my thing.
Wasn't it? Isn't it just like buying a sailboat? The best day of your life is the day you become a criminal lawyer, and the best day of your life
No,
is the day you stop being a criminal lawyer.
no, the best day of my life as a lawyer was the day I got two people out of jail on the same day.
Okay, all right.
And I made really large amounts of money on some personal injury cases, but nothing compared to the day I got, and by the way, two people who should not have been in jail.
Okay, okay, that's good.
I just got them out, like on bail
Yes, yes.
temporarily, but two people who should not have been in jail, I got them out. I got them to be able to go back to their families, and the feeling of getting people who were wrongly, in my opinion, wrongly in prison, getting them out so they get back to their lives was a very good feeling.
Good, very cool. So, and then of course, for the last couple, 3 years, you've been a major presence on YouTube in the Tesla community. You were maybe the second YouTuber that I paid any attention to and got a lot of the ideas for how I run my show from the way you were running your show at the time. So thank you, Warren, for stimulating
Awesome.
my inspiring me to do this. This is the most fun job I've ever had. Of all the things, and I've owned about 45 companies and every kind of thing you can possibly, from manufacturing to wholesale to import to export to service businesses. And this is by far the most fun thing I've ever done. So
Yeah.
all good. Well, what we're going to talk about right now is Optimus and the competition. So I would like to put up quickly, I'd like to share my screen. So this morning, Cern Basher, or maybe it was yesterday, but anyway, Cern Basher and Scott Walter put together a list of the various bot companies and where they think they are in terms of their progress in putting together a useful bot. And so I thought it'd be fun to kind of take a look at what they've done, Warren, and see what you think, what I think about it. Okay, so they've divided it into, I'm going to move our pictures here a little bit, move us down into over here. So they've divided it into the bot video, sorry, whether it's using video, I think that's what whether there's a video out. I guess that's what that means. Whether it can walk, whether it is publicly showing its hands, whether it's potentially doing or showing in the demo that it does useful works, whether it has large language model and voice integration, whether it does autonomous work, again in the videos, and whether they've deployed any bots. So we can do away with the deployed list because nobody is deploying any bots evidently at this point. Figure has suggested that they might be close. Actually, I think a Sanctuary, no, one of them has actually deployed some bots in retail up in Canada. I'm forgetting which one that is, but it was a kind of a limited test of deploying them in retail. All right, so first of all, what do you think about the list of the ways that they're being compared? Is this a list that you would use?
No, I think the problem is that I don't think any of this matters. I think, well, I don't think I disagree with Cern as much as I have tremendous respect for both Cern and Scott. I feel like there's a disagreement between Scott and I. And again, Scott, if Scott and I disagree, you might want to believe Scott more than you believe me, but I'll just tell you my opinion. The value from Optimus is not it's not, everyone is focused on humanoid robots for like factory work, humanoid robots for doing, useful work, for doing autonomous work. And I'm not saying useful work is unimportant, but the real value in Optimus is developing real world AI. And it's not training a bot to do a task that matters. If you train the bot to understand the world, and then you say, and you tell it to go do something it has never done before, then it'll be able to do anything, right? If it's developed real world AI, you tell it to do something it's never done before, and it's able to, because it understands the real world, it's able to do something that it has never done before without being trained. That's the game changer. Being able to train it to do this task or that task is an infinite number of tasks that would need to be done. The amount of time it would take to train bots to do every little task would be too large. You can make some dents in some very common tasks, but there's too many things that you would need to train. So the real game is getting large volumes of bots out in the real world in diverse circumstances, not just in factory boxes, but out in the real world. Exploring the world, developing an understanding of the real world, so that when you develop real and manipulating objects in the real world, so that when you say to the bot, hey, go get me that red thing over there, the bot understands there's a red thing over there and goes and gets it without having to be trained to do that specific task. And when you get to the point that the bots can do any task by saying, hey, go do that, and it figures it out on its own. And the first time it does it, it doesn't do it that well. And then like all the bots learn, right? It realizes it didn't do that particular task well, and it uploads that data to the cloud, right? And then the training compute trains all the bots to understand the real world better so that they'll all do that task better in the future. That's the game changer. And so the distinction between Tesla's Optimus and all of these other bots, I don't know all of them, but all the ones that I've seen, is that Tesla is going to be manufacturing Optimus in large volumes soon, as in within the next couple of years. And nobody else has any plans to manufacture bots in any significant volume anytime soon. And nobody else has the computing power to be able to, maybe Xpeng's at the bottom of the list, maybe a couple of the Chinese companies, but nobody else really has the computing power to be able to take that data that you generate and train on it. So, did they do a demo where they were walking publicly? I don't think having a humanoid robot walking is that big of a deal anymore. The hands matter. I agree that the hands matter for being able to do things. But it's really like Tesla's getting ready to manufacture them at scale at low cost. Has that, there's nothing on their list about how much it costs to make a bot, right?
Yeah.
If Tesla's bot ends up costing $10,000 to make and everybody else's bot costs $500,000 to make, then there's no gain. And I don't know, we know Boston Dynamics cost of making a bot is really high, and we know Boston Dynamics bot doesn't have AI. And then, what do they do? Look at figure.ai, put AI in your name, right? Sanctuary AI, put AI in your name, and then go to investors and say, we're doing something like what Tesla's doing, and we've got AI. And investors are throwing money on anything that has AI in it. And the LLM plus voice integration, we know that's coming for Tesla.
Of course.
They've got Grok, so they have a large language model. We know they're going to incorporate Grok into the bot. I mean, we don't know it. It seems very likely they're going to incorporate XAI's products into Optimus and into the cars. That's just, something that's going to happen along the way. But the fact that you've got LLM and voice integration now, what's the point? If the bot can't do anything and it doesn't understand the real world, what does it do with that large language model and voice integration? So I don't know if I'm being too negative like I'm not smarter than the people. I'll just say this about figure.ai, by the way.
Yeah.
If you go to their about page, there's a who we are, and the top 5 people in the company, 4 of them are not engineers. And the guy who is arguably an engineer is like largely an academic, doesn't have a lot of real world experience, and it looks like he's wearing a Star Trek uniform. So I didn't find that compelling. And I think, throwing AI in your name, like, are you a robot company or an AI company? Oh, well, we're both. Yeah, really? Well, what distinguishes an AI company? Large amounts of data, large amounts of compute, right? That's what AI is really about now. You need
Yeah.
large amounts of data, large amounts of compute. Do any of these companies have are any of these companies generating large amounts of data, and do they have large amounts of compute? I don't see anybody on this list that has the compute. And I don't see anybody on this list that's making bots on high volume, because that's not on the list. You know, what volume do they expect to manufacture in the next year?
Right. Yeah.
What
Well, in
when
fact,
they
yeah,
yeah.
in fact, Figure AI and some of the others have all said that they don't even have the capacity to manufacture, that that's the next step, that they need to figure out how to manufacture, which could be the harder job of the two.
No,
But let's,
they need to get investors to invest money in their company so that they can start the process of building, you know, more advanced prototypes, so they get to the point where they think they have something that's manufacturable, but they don't have the manufacturing experience.
right,
That's, you know, another advantage of Tesla is Tesla has
huge,
massive manufacturing experience.
huge advantage. Now, on the one hand, I don't know whether Scott and CERN really cared about this as a competitive thing, because most everybody that's looking at the robots is saying the same thing that we've been saying about energy storage. It's is that TAM is so huge that if these things do useful work, there's not the competition isn't going to matter for the next 10 years. Everybody will get plenty of business if their product actually is gives a return on investment for what they cost. What I think you're talking about, which is what I think all of us are talking about, but I think you've added a wrinkle to it. So the conversation for the last 3 or 4 weeks has been, are we going to build a bot that can do 100 things in a factory well? And like you say, that there's a lot of need for bots to fold t-shirts, okay? There's a lot of need for bots to flip hamburgers. There's a lot of need for bots to walk around industrial parks or retail locations and be guards, I think that was one of your first ones years ago, or
Nope.
a year ago.
Secure facilities in particular.
Yeah, so you've got these specific tasks, which if you could teach the bot to do those specific tasks, they would be valuable now. You could start to lease them today, and you could start the cash flow going. You could get I forget who talks about this. It might be Brian Wong again. You get the ratchet started, so you've got some income coming in, so that you can pay for the next level of what you're trying to do. And that's something that Tesla has understood from the time that they came out with their first car. So they could also be in that mindset. When can we get the product up to the place where we think it makes sense to start making it in volume, where there will be plenty of customers and a fairly easy business of getting it, into a useful situation. So then you've got the next level, which is not the level you were talking about. The next level would be kind of in the middle. It's generally useful, but it's still not AGI. So it's generally capable. It knows its environment. It knows how to work next to a human. It has a lot of capabilities, but you're probably, when you bring it to the factory, you take it to the nursing home, you're probably going to have to take it through a process of teaching it using one of the various methods that we know about, see and say, simulations, auto train. What do you call that? Where you stand behind it and do it for it, and then it knows how to do it. I forget
I don't
auto.
know what you call that, but I know what you mean.
All right. So anyway, so
Basically have a human wearing like a suit that
right.
captures all his movements and captures everything he sees, and then the bot can see everything that the human does and see everything the human sees and follows how he's trained to do it by the human.
Right.
Because I mean, there's two different issues, and actually, I think if I remember correctly, Drew and Elon interacted on this question of when bot would be doing useful work.
Mhm.
And there was sort of a disagreement
It
between
did.
Elon about
Yes.
that. But, I think that focusing on useful work, eventually it will do useful work, no question about it. Is there some, I just think if you think the vision for bot in the next few years is make bots in, let's say 100,000 bots and sell them to customers where they're going to work in factories, then you're not exposing bots to enough diverse environments and enough diverse tasks to train bot on to really develop real world AI, to really understanding the world around it. And you could make money I'm gonna guess if there was a bot beta program and you could buy one for $25,000, Randy, um, even if it was useless, right? It could follow you around, it could do a few things, but it wasn't really particularly useful or practical. You'd buy one and so would I, right? And I think there's probably 100,000 people out there who would, for $25,000, buy a bot to just have one walking around with them. It's at least 10,000 of us,
Uh-huh.
right? And then I'd have my bot walking around Thailand, and you'd have your bot walking around LA, and somebody be walking on the beach, and somebody be walking in the woods, and somebody be walking in a factory, and I might take mine country line dancing, whatever, there's all. But if you want to expose it to a wide variety of environments, then you need a wide variety of people in a wide variety of circumstances. And if you're constraining yourself to developing a bot that learns to do simple tasks in limited environments, then you're slowing your development of real world AI.
So maybe not,
And
Warren. So Warren, what about the idea that you could chew gum and walk at the same time, so to speak? Anyway, I don't know if the bot can do that, but you
I hope it's not chewing gum.
so you could, first of all, it could be different things for different companies. So you could have a figure AI who needs to create some income now, who would go out and sell it as they have done to BMW, and they're going to put 10 or 20 or whatever it's going to be next year in the BMW plant and have it do useful work. And now they've generated some income. They can get a second company to do that, a 10th company, whatever. And they're doing that. Meanwhile, it may be them doing also trying to get closer to AGI, but it might be Tesla that says, you know what? No, we're not going to put these robots out until they're more generally capable. There may be a third company, we'll just call it Sanctuary AI just for fun, who says we're not going to put them out until we've got all the way to AGI. So we're going to concentrate all of our R&D on having them follow Warren and Randy around to make sure that we've got them understanding what it's like to walk in any environment, to participate in any kind of temperature, to be able to deal with any kind of inclement weather, whatever, they can really do it all. And we're not even going to ship our first one until we get there. Isn't it possible that you could have one company that would do all three, or that you would have different companies with different timelines?
My personal opinion is that none of these companies will, other than Tesla, will have a bot that's capable of doing any significant, meaningful work in any meaningful way. And the fact that somebody has a contract with BMW is a publicity stunt for BMW and the bot company. Factories are, the work that's done in factories is either work that's done by large industrial robots or work that's done by humans. And the reason that you have the humans there is because the work that the humans do is not easily repeated and it's not simple tasks. The large industrial robots do the simple tasks in high volume, and the humans have to figure out how to do certain things. And there's not a lot of room. I'm not a factory guy. I don't think there's a lot of work for any of these bots in the near term.
So Warren, so Warren, I am a factory guy. I owned a factory for 30 years, plastics manufacturing, and I can tell you that there are plenty of jobs. I would hire. I've talked about it so many times on the show. I hate to even bring it up again, but I made plastic water bottles, and you had to put the caps on the water bottles. I tried to get it automated. I couldn't get it automated. I couldn't get it automated for a price that made sense with the equipment that I thought was going to work well. But if the bot could do nothing but put that cap on that water bottle, it would have been worth $100,000 a year to me. If it could do it at
So
the same speed as an operator.
that's a pretty big if.
And so it wouldn't have been hard. I mean,
Not only that,
the bot that we're seeing now.
what percentage of the time does the cap not go on right?
No, I think this is not a screw cap. This is the bicycle style water bottle that has a tether, and you just have to stretch the tether on and then bring it around and pop it on. It was the tether that made it hard to automate.
Okay, but so what happens when something goes wrong? The human figures it out and redoes it. The bot, like if it doesn't go right the first time, the bot probably freaks out.
I think that this is a trainable, based on what we've seen so far on various videos. I think it was easily trainable. But I'll give you a better example. I'll give you an easier example. A higher paid worker operated the blow mold, injection blow machines, and all that operator did was watch those bottles fall out of the injection blow machine, pick them up, and put them into a trimmer. That was something I can assure you that these bots would be able to do right now. It's
Yeah,
not.
I don't know enough about Sanctuary AI to say anything. I'm going to say this right now. I would bet $100 that Figure.ai will not have any meaningful robot doing anything meaningful by the end of 2027.
Wow. Okay.
I think Figure I it's a gut reaction based on what I saw looking at I did research their company a little bit. And I saw, like I said, I saw four of the five people at the top of the company were not engineers at all. One of them's basic career was he was really good at getting funding for companies, right? He's really good at doing startups that get funded.
But
Well,
Warren, but
I'm
Warren,
looking for I'm looking for an engineer who wants to build something that works. That the Elon Musk model is you got a guy who's totally in engineering who wants to build something really cool, not somebody who's looking to fool investors into investing into a startup.
Warren, my company was a undergrad psych, graduate law, and my partner was a master's in sociology, who was planning to become a pastor until we got together. Well, not till we got together,
Did you
but we,
brag in your company website about your ability to raise money for venture capital from venture capitalists for funding, or
no, but we built a company from the ground up that was in plastics manufacturing that became the largest of its kind in the entire world, with 5.5 million in sales in about 7, 8 years.
right?
So
But you're missing my point. The guy is bragging about his ability to get funding from VCs, not about his ability to do
right.
meaningful work.
Well,
And
that's going to be important in this category. So that was the other thing we wanted to talk about actually was I don't think any of these companies will be on their own if they have a meaningful product. If the product has the basics, maybe they have no ability to manufacture, maybe they have no ability to scale, maybe they're AI, they don't have any compute or any compute on the scale that they would need to have it. So they end up getting purchased by Microsoft, or end up getting purchased by Google, or they end up getting, go down the
well,
line.
Boston Dynamics is on the list. They got acquired by Hyundai.
Right.
That's the other thing that guys like this guy who's at the head of Figure.ai do.
Yeah.
First, you get VCs to fund your company, and then you find some company dumb enough to buy your company.
Yeah.
Then you get your exit, and your shareholders got a 10x, and you move on to the next bullshit startup, and nobody ever sees your product again because the company that bought your company was looking to say, "Oh, look, we're doing something in the robotic space."
Yeah.
Right? So the Figure AI's, press release about how they're going to be building robots with BMW, using their robots for BMW, you know, 3 years from now, BMW buys up Figure.ai and we never see anything from Figure AI again.
It's entirely
Right.
possible. Yeah. I mean, that's how it works in any kind of a disruptive, brand new environment. We had how many, I guess, 200 or 300 startups in China in the EV space, and 80% of them have already gone bankrupt. Yeah. So that would be kind of the normal process that you would kind of
I,
expect.
I would expect that there will be, because China gets it, um, somebody in China is going to figure this out. They're much more competitive in manufacturing than anywhere else. The people massively underestimate the research capabilities, the intelligence of the Chinese. They think they're just copycats. They're not just copycats. They're leading the world in battery tech. They're leading the world in manufacturing solar. My best guess would be that if there's going to be any competition at all, it's going to come from China.
Mhm.
Somebody in China is going to manufacture bots at scale. And, I think it's XPeng that actually has sort of like probably the next best robo-taxi network out there. And I'm not saying they're close to Tesla, but they understand the concept. You got to manufacture in volume, you got to generate data, and you got to train.
Right.
And my bet would be that the Chinese figure that out before any of these AI startups in America. But is there some, like I said, I haven't looked at Sanctuary AI, so I don't know. I haven't looked at Agility Robotics, so I don't know. I've looked at Boston Dynamics and they don't have the AI because that's not on the chart either. Do they have AI? What is their AI?
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, again, I attack the list in a slightly different way, and maybe it's unfair to attack the list in this way because they're trying to accomplish one thing. Where is the bot in its development in terms of R&D? But I would look at it and say, okay, great, you have a working bot, but can you make it? Can you make it in scale? Can you make it at a cost that makes sense? Do you have a marketing department that can actually go out and get it get it placed. You know, once you get it placed, how's your customer service department in terms of getting it actually operational in the facility? Because that's the big thing with regard to industrial products, is you've got to have this really talented team that goes out and works with the manufacturer in the space to make sure that it's working and accomplishing what it's supposed to do. So there's a whole bunch of stuff you have to be able to do, not just make a bot.
But are you, I think the two things that I don't see on this list that are important is, do they have any prospect for manufacturing at scale at low cost?
Yeah.
And then do you have any prospect of training, of collecting data and training on it?
Right.
And to my knowledge, no one on the list is ready to manufacture at scale. I would say Xpeng and Xiaomi would be their companies that manufacture. So they may have a shot at it.
Yeah.
Boston Dynamics is owned by Hyundai, so Hyundai, at least in theory, could manufacture. And then do they have any training compute?
Right.
How much training compute do they have? How much training compute are they getting? To my knowledge, no one on the list has training compute anywhere close to what Tesla has.
Right.
I mean, if Meta was on the list, Meta has training compute. Google has training compute. Microsoft has training compute. There's, OpenAI has training compute. Outside of them and maybe 3 or 4 other, I think Anthropic has training compute, but there's this small list of companies that have the training compute that's necessary to train. And most of the companies I just mentioned are busy training LLMs.
Right.
And generative AI, they're not training bots. And it's like, where are you going to put your resources? And you could understand if you're OpenAI, why would you bother worrying about robots? You've got profitable business models already lined up.
Well, actually, OpenAI and Google are definitely working on robots. So OpenAI said they weren't, but now they clearly are. And Google clearly has been working on robots for quite a long time. And so I see those as being the two most likely to start buying. If they can buy what happens here. They buy the bot company because there's 3 guys on the team that they want. There might be some technology that they get at the same time, but maybe there's 3 guys on the team that are worth it all by themselves. And they end up
Google and OpenAI do not manufacture, and OpenAI is connected with Microsoft, and they don't manufacture. You need somebody that manufactures the machines. And the only company on this list that actually manufactures, Xpeng manufactures machines. But Tesla's in that position where Optimus customizing their own servos and actuators and building it from the ground up. With not just from the ground up with parts off the shelf, but literally building up all the parts from the ground up, from basically from the atom,
right?
From the material, raw materials, rather than finding some off the shelf parts to put something together. I don't see, to my knowledge, nobody, I don't know everybody on this list, but I doubt that anybody on this list is close to that.
Right, right. And again, I'm not. I really think it's important, just like with cars. I know you've done this on your channel. I know you and I've even talked about it before. This is less about, to me, it's always less about the competition, even though you and I are both competitive, and so we want our team to win. It's less to me about the competition than it is about the entire industry moving forward and providing the kind of wealth to the world that bots are going to be providing in the future. So if
you want to take the graphic off the screen?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. I just think at a certain point, the audience probably doesn't need to see that anymore.
They want to see us instead. I mean,
our beautiful faces, obviously.
Absolutely.
Our taste in glasses, your hair, my lack of hair.
Yeah. So anyway, I think, I would like to have all 15 of them. It's kind of like I'd like to have, 15, 20 good EV makers. I'd like to have 15 or 20 good bot makers, because it's going to take a lot of good bot makers to make the quantity of bots that the world will be thrilled to add to the capabilities of the world.
If you don't develop a bot with real world AI, then it's not that useful. It's of limited use. You can do a certain set of tasks with it, but you can't ask it to do something it hasn't done before. And Tesla's I predict that Tesla will be manufacturing 100 million bots a year by 2035.
By 2035, 100 million by 2035.
100 million a year, and maybe sooner than that.
So how many will they produce this year?
Oh, no, I don't expect, I mean, any significant volume in the next year or two. I think
And
there's a chance,
100,000?
there's a chance that, I don't know, based on Elon and Drew's interaction, I think it's next year
Okay,
that they will manufacture in some volume.
okay.
I think that I think Elon sees what I see, and maybe Drew doesn't. This is just like my read on what I saw of the conversation. Um, actually, I shouldn't say that. I mean, I think I'm reading too much in that conversation. The I think that Elon sees that the real value is developing real world AI, and real world AI is not something that you're going to develop just by being inside a factory training bots to do specific tasks. You've got to develop, you've got to expose the bots to diverse data. You train on diverse data, not uniform data. And keeping bots trapped in factories does not generate real world data, diverse data. You got to find a way of getting them out there, and not like, I'm going to be, I'm probably going to be proven wrong, but I'm confident I'm correct that this is the right path. Something like a bot beta program, getting it out to me and you and whoever, and we just take the bot with us wherever we go. And our bots climb stairs, and my bot climbs a carpeted stairway, and your bot climbs a tile stairway, and somebody else's bot climbs a wooden stairway, and they get used to different textures on the stairways. And one of them gets on an escalator, whatever. And people are like, oh, what about the liability? Like, well, a Tesla Model X Plaid weighs 5,300 pounds and goes 85 miles an hour on FSD beta. The bot will go 3 miles an hour, weighs 125 pounds. Which one has more kinetic energy,
So,
right?
so again, the only difference between you and me really is that I believe that I have come to believe that Tesla is planning to do something that has a lot of use. In other words, that the first product that they actually ship will be widely capable. It won't just be capable of 100 tasks. It'll be capable of working in an environment. It'll be capable of dealing with humans next to it, all that kind of stuff, but that it will still be basically a factory bot. But I don't think that keeps them from simultaneously taking 10,000 of those first iterations out of the 100,000 they build in 2025 or whatever, take 10,000 of those and put them out into 10,000 different real world situations in order to start generating all that potential demand.
Yeah, I think that the danger there is if you have too many bots in limited circumstances, then you essentially overfit to limited circumstances. Just like Elon has said that FSD beta is overfit to the San Francisco Bay Area and Silicon Valley because that's where so many of the cars are and so many of the team are. Um,
You're going to have to overfit to
but,
certain.
but
Nobody's talked about this yet. The first time I've said it on the show, you're going to have to overfit to a certain extent because there's going to be, what do you want to call it, proprietary information in some factories. So there's going to be some aspects of the bot that are going to have to be able to be, what do you call it, the brain is going to have to be able to separate out certain tasks that you're not going to want the entire.
I'm just gonna say this, like I know I'm howling against the wind. I'm spitting into the wind. I don't think bot is intended to be a factory worker. I don't think that's the point. Not to say that it can't be a factory worker. That's not the point. The point is to be a general purpose humanoid robot, not a factory worker, a general purpose humanoid robot. And there's so many different, it could be flipping burgers, it could be taking the trash out if you can train it to understand the real world and give it any task, something that's never, if you have to train it for every individual task, then it's an endless stream of training. But if you can train it to understand the real world and then it can learn on its own effectively, it can like see a task and figure out how to do it, right? And I don't mean, I think that that's the real game changer. And I think Elon sees that. And like I'm not saying I'm smarter than Elon. I'm predicting what I think Elon sees.
Yeah, but
I'm not saying I'm smarter. I'm
would
not
you
saying I'm
think?
smarter than Scott. I'm not saying I'm smarter than Scott or CERN, right? I'm just saying, like, if you can get the bot to do at least in a limited way, hey, take the trash out, and you don't train it directly to the trash, but it sees the trash there and it pulls the bag up, ties it, and throws it, and then walks out to the dumpster and throws it in. I think if you give it some sort of general training of here's something we want you to do, here's how to mop a floor, right? Mopping a floor is not one simple task. there's a lot of floor, there's a lot of different circumstances it's going to encounter while it's mopping the floor. That may be a valuable task that's not really something you can just train by having it follow somebody else, because there's going to be edge cases and corner cases, right? What about when there's a small child that walks in front of the mop? Is that trained? You don't train that in factory work. So yeah, I think that there's, I'm clearly an outlier of all the influencers talking about this topic. I'm an outlier. Everybody else is like, no, bots going to be in Tesla factories. I'm like, I'm not saying there won't be any bots in Tesla factories. I just don't think that's going to be that big of a deal. I think there's room for 10 bots in a Tesla factory, maybe 100 bots in a Tesla factory. If you're going to make 100,000 bots, what do you do with the other 999,000? 99,900,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I think, well, I'll leave it with, well, you can respond, but I think based on my experience in factories, in lots of factories, not just my own factories, but other people's factories, because I have suppliers and I worked with, as a consultant with lots of factories. Based on my experience with factories, there are so many use cases already with the bot at its current level that I and every other factory will be dying, will be champing at the bit, will be lined up in a line longer than the Cybertruck line to get these bots, because the problem will be if I don't have it and my competitor does, he has a tremendous competitive advantage. And so I'm just saying that from somebody who, my main job, maybe my number one job in my factory was not even to develop a product. My main job was to make sure it stayed competitive. So I was always like, okay, should I make that overseas instead of making it myself? Should I outsource it instead of making it myself? Should I automate this part of it instead of continuing to have employees do it? Is there any way I can get my employees to do it faster or better? Is there some way that I can change the product in order to make it less expensive and faster to put together? I mean, that was a huge percentage of what my tasking was as a factory owner. And the spot, as it stands right now, the ones that I've seen working, they would already be able to do stuff in my factory. I'm almost like 99.9% sure they'd be able to do stuff in my factory that would make them worth me paying $100,000 a year in rent
Okay.
for 4 shifts,
All right.
Okay, all right. Okay, hey, Warren, great conversation. I really appreciate the part about the AGI part, because I hadn't really thought about that next step. And that's something you were talking about 11 months ago on your show. I think you and I even talked about it. You've been talking about that from the very beginning. I had completely forgotten about it. So great addition to the conversation. All right. Yeah, listen to the program we did yesterday. That would be another one. I'll put that card up here, or it might have been 2 days ago, but anyway, look for Warren. We went over a whole bunch of really cool stuff about everything from the next generation vehicle. I think that was the coolest part of the conversation, was what is really happening with the next gen. So take a look at that. I'll put the card right up here. Warren, as always, thank you so much for coming on board.
Thanks, Randy.